Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Okay, so welcome to this second session of the morning session of the European Alliance Against Coronavirus in the 2021. I'm really glad to have Horst Tonday and Daniel Witt with us today to speak about COVID-19 therapy research. It's absolutely a hot topic in this moment, and we are fortunate to have here people working on it daily and sharing with us their experience, their knowledge, and their approaches. So the session will start with them, with a presentation from both of them. As always, we will later open the floor for a dialogue between us. Thank you and welcome, Horst. Should I give you the presentation right?
Yeah, please.
Let's see. Now, you should be able.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing now your PowerPoint.
Good.
Not in full screen mode yet.
I'm starting now. Okay, now it should work. Okay.
And you should change the
Huh. Where is that? Referentenansicht ausblenden. Now you should see it. Okay.
Now it's perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Antonio.
Sorry, Horst. The only problem is that we are seeing also your GoToMeeting screen. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
Yes, now it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Antonio and Nina, and inviting us to this morning session. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, I joined your session very often in the past year. My name is Horst Tonday. I'm the General Manager of the Munich Biotech Cluster Development Organization, Biotech Cluster Development Organization. And here just the first slide to give you an overview of what we have been doing in the past 23 years or so. We built up this Munich Biotech Cluster, and let's say the most important point perhaps is also when we look at what we want to present today, that in 1997 when we started our activities, there was no ongoing clinical trial by the very small biotech industry. Now it's more than 130, and in the meantime 12 drugs have been approved for the market, and one of them is really a blockbuster. All this was possible because of very good private investments into the small and medium-sized enterprises, more than 4 billion, and also infrastructure investments by the state, mainly by the state of Bavaria. And BioM was always supportive in these effects. Now, here is what we generally know about the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. We have these three pillars, which is prevention, testing, and vaccines. Prevention, at least with us, it's organized by the public authorities. It's a playground for political decision makers, and it's always very interesting to find out what the politicians now decide to lift the lockdown or to make it even harder or whatever. And but there it's very difficult to get involved into that. So we leave that, let's say, to the doctors in the ICUs who could have a strong effect on that. Now, but it's very well organized. It's distancing, hygiene, face coverings, warning app, and room airing. These are the general rules that we have. Then there's this field of testing, virus testing, and here I can say very proudly that we were really supportive in helping those innovative biotech companies in our area to get financial support for their new test systems, which make them faster, which made them more sensitive, and which kept the price down. Altogether, we were able to help the three companies to get altogether 8 million euro funding, and the results were very good. So, for example, one of those companies who developed a very fast test, PCR test, which only takes 15 minutes, plus everything, it's a good 30 minutes then that you can get the result. And they received an emergency use authorization, and another one was selected to get into the finals of the so-called X Prize from the United States, where several hundred of companies applied, and it's the only continental European company that was successful to get into the final round. And also we were supportive for those companies who had started to develop vaccines, although one must admit that our efforts were not so good, because the German government decided to support only, let's say, 3 bigger companies. 2 of you are very well known, BioNTech and CureVac. But there was something missing, the 4th pillar, and we have been working on that problem for the past month. And this 4th pillar is therapeutics. Currently, at the moment, about 5,000 people die every day of the pandemic, and we have no good therapeutic tools besides of dexamethasone. But a lot of products have been, let's say, are in development, but they come mainly either from East Asia, or they come from the United States. Some of you might have been heard, our German Minister of Health has bought several 100,000 of vials of an antibody cocktail from the United States. If we get them, that's not yet clear. So we wanted to get involved into that. Let's say we spent from the cluster management most of our time in getting, let's say, this problem solved. First, what we did, we implemented a cooperation platform to identify partners who could work together. More than 100 different companies and also research institutes entered to this platform. And then more or less also starting from April last year, we collected ideas and proposals for the development of therapies. And it did not take long that we get more than 20 proposals of this. Now, the difficult part was now how can a program, a funding program, be established? And there I have to admit our efforts to go through the government were rather unsuccessful, because government, the executive, has their ideas, extremely difficult to convince them. Although we talked with a real political decision makers, it did not help. What helped in the end, to go through the parliament, because parliamentarians they were looking for something to do, because parliaments were really cut off from the decisions. Everything was decided by the executive, and there, through an initiative of one single parliamentarian whose family was strongly hit by the pandemic, he lost 2 close relatives, and he brought the whole process ongoing, and he and his party could convince the entire Bavarian parliament. There was no chance anymore for the government, of the executive, to escape from that. So funding program for the development of COVID-19 therapies was proposed, was decided, was resolved on December 22. We sent out the open call to submit project proposals on December 23, because we were well prepared, and currently with the deadline January 31st, and currently 25 proposals are in the evaluation process, and we think that by the end of February the decisions will be made. Now, interestingly, there were side effects, collateral effects, further effects of this Bavarian initiative. So this positive commitment of Bavaria, Parliament as well as government, triggered a similar process at the level of the German federal parliament, resulting in a similar program of 50 million euro funding, which was done by the German Ministry of Research. And now, since we have seen how important Parliament is, how important the representation of the society through Parliament is, we have started a similar process on the European level, and we there especially hope to get a much bigger program to get funding for late-stage clinical trials for therapeutics. I have to admit, USA is the role model. And my colleague and friend Daniel Fitt will talk about that, because they have been very far, but now they are stuck. They are in a phase 2 trial. Now they want to start a phase 3 trial, whereas in the United States, the government would have supported that immediately. Here with us, it's not yet clear. So thank you very much.
You are very welcome, and congratulations, Horst, for that, I will say, wonderful actions. So now it's time to welcome Daniel Bitt from Immunic AG. Daniel, I will give you now the presentation rights.
Okay. I first need to grant access rights here.
You just have to go to the screen symbol.
Yeah, the problem is that my computer does not allow me to do that. So maybe you can use the presentation I sent over.
Yes, I can do that. No problem. Let me prepare it. Okay, so I will share the screen from here. Here it is.
Okay, good. So yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I'm very thankful for that, and I think you can directly continue with the story Horst told you the last couple of minutes, because we are just in the middle of exactly trying to practically come up with a solution for therapeutic. If you go to slide 3 directly, so maybe just one slide background on what we are doing. So the company Immunic has 3 products in clinical development, and our most advanced molecule is IMU-838, where we obtained very good efficacy data from a big phase 2 trial in multiple sclerosis last summer. And why are we exploring COVID-19 is an interesting observation we made some years ago, that IMU-838 not only is a very selective regulator of the immune system, but also has direct antiviral properties. And we have seen that for a couple of different viruses. And therefore, in June, we were able to start a phase 2 trial, because we already treated 800 individuals already with the drug, and we know that the drug is quite safe and well tolerated, and therefore it opened up an avenue to do an accelerated way forward directly into a clinical phase 2 trial. But if you go to the next slide.
Sorry, David, because it's my fault, but I didn't introduce you. I need to say that in this case, we are speaking with directly with a representative of a company member of the cluster. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So I'm part of the cluster, and we work closely with the cluster management, of course. And we are a company based here in Munich, in Germany. And and we have these molecules in development. So we're part of the whole list of things Horst mentioned before. We have, I think, 7 clinical trials ongoing right now within the company. And one of those is our clinical phase 2 trial in COVID-19 patients.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry for not introducing you. Go on, please.
Okay, so but the big question is, how can we get those drugs available for patients? And if you, it's a little bit maybe more complex story, and I want to share some thoughts about that. If you go to the next slide. So overall, I think the COVID-19 situation is still really worrisome, and so there's still a high ongoing disease activity despite vaccination started in a lot of countries. Long-term immunity is of course somehow achievable, but until that is really the case, we really know that we need to expect a lot of death cases in the next couple of months to come. And I have here on the right side just the current numbers of today for Germany. So we have more than 2,000 patients with currently invasive ventilation support in intensive care units. And the number of death rates in Germany still is above 500 per day. And that's something we really need to address. So of course, we as healthy people have a strong lobby, and vaccine development is definitely the right choice to continue here. However, there are so many patients which are affected, which are sick and need a cure, that it is, I think, driving us and other companies to develop therapeutics for those. If you go to the next slide, please. What is important, COVID-19 is a complex disease, and there are different stages during infection and disease progression where we may develop therapeutics. And for example, starting very early with the infection, it's specifically the antiviral activity is something which can be used in the early part of the treatment. Then, of course, the immune system is answering to the infection, and if we find ways to strengthen the direct antiviral immune response without overshooting immune reaction, this may also be a quite interesting therapeutic approach. And then if patients are worsening on disease, then there's of course this very high unmet need for patients in intensive care with respiratory distress syndrome, and specifically in the late stage of disease. So all of that is needed. And if you go to the next slide, we are testing IMU-828 now more in a middle stage of disease. The molecule, as I mentioned, has a direct antiviral efficacy shown in vitro against SARS-CoV-2 virus. And what we think is the beauty of 828 is a triple attack on the virus. So we have seen this antiviral activity. I share some data in a minute. Also, given the mode of action of IMU-828, we expect that the compound may induce innate immune response in an interferon-independent signaling. And of course, and that's basically linked to the history of development and the other activities, for example, in treating multiple sclerosis. We expect that the drug is able to reduce overshooting cytokine high-producing immune cell response. So this triple attack may allow for therapeutic intervention for patients. Next slide shows you some data. So we have tested in vitro prior to starting the clinical trial. We've tested the drug against SARS-CoV-2 infected lung epithelial cells, so-called A549 cells overexpressing the ACE2 receptor. And what we have seen is that at a concentration we easily reach in human, in patients, that we have a 99.9% reduction of the virus load in vitro. And that triggered our interest and our conviction that the drug really may be an interesting option to treat patients. On the next slide, and we started in June of last year a phase 2 program, and we are treating here patients at WHO stage 3 and 4, which means those patients are hospitalized. They have either oxygen support or not. So this is the difference between stage 4 and 3. And we randomized the patients between two arms. One arm receives active treatment, which is twice daily 22.5 milligram IMU-838, or in the second arm control, which means twice daily placebo, but both treated on top of investigators' choice of standard of care. And this is addressing, I think, the practical need that in every country at every time there's a different standard. We just want to make sure that patients really receive the best treatment they can have all the time during the trial. This trial is almost done. We're currently in the process of cleaning up the database, and we expect readout of the phase 2 part here later this month, and then we'll publish the results as well. Yeah, now the question is what to do. And we would love to prepare phase 3 trial. However, this is something which costs a lot of money. And we expect that phase 3 may cost around about 60 million euros. And therefore, the company first need to wait to see results prior to prepare the trial. And I think at this time, we already have lost some important time on the development because we could really save wall clock time to really get something through if we would be able to take the risk and to start preparation of phase 3 trial earlier than we can do just as an independent company. So far, we have not received any funding. We have agreed with the European Investment Bank a venture loan for support of phase 2/3 trial. That's the only thing we succeeded so far. If you go to the next slide, I would like to share some thoughts about the general landscape of therapeutic development. So this is one approach of maybe a couple of hundred globally. However, most of the current ongoing trials are less advanced. Most activities are still in preclinical or early clinical trials. They spread around very different stages of intervention, really starting from very early antiviral activity and going to intensive care. Our colleagues at the BCOF consortium, so 3 other companies, we joined forces to also help to get more attention from the political side to support therapeutic developments. They cover all these different aspects of stages of therapeutic developments. So I think that's ongoing. There's a lot of commitment from the companies. What we see right now, and I think that's something we should not forget, is there's still very high disease activity. We have a lot of patients in hospitals. The numbers are really, really high despite all the vaccination efforts now going on. And what is something we should have on the radar screen, the emergence of mutated viral strains is another threat coming up. And we should be prepared for this case. And in the case that, for example, some viruses are resistant towards the current vaccines, we need to be prepared to treat patients, which then we may see a third wave coming from that. I think we all hope this is not the case. However, it is our responsibility to be prepared for that. And to accelerate the whole thing, and this is, I mentioned, part of our initiative we call BCOF with the other 3 companies here in Germany. We try to boost political commitments here in Germany to support therapeutic development. We have seen some successes, and I'm happy to see that BioM, for example, was very successful also in working with the Bavarian government to support that. We have applied for that, by the way, for that grant, of course. But also on the German government side, we are currently in active discussions to get further commitments there. So that's, I think, very important. The problem is that we need something now. We don't need something in 2 or 3 years. I think that's the challenge here, and therefore we need to make sure that everybody understands that there's no time to wait and to discuss or implement complex processes of selection and evaluation. So we need to just take the risk, go forward with everything we have. I think that's our responsibility as companies, but also on the political side. To accelerate those trials, and this definitely requires substantial financial support. And I'm speaking here not just for our company, I think really I'm speaking here for the whole industry and basically for all people here in Europe and around the world, really needing therapeutic now and also in the future. Yeah, that's what I have prepared for now. Thank you.
You are very welcome. So I think the exposition is very clear. I will ask for the rest of the attendants if they agree with what has been exposed, and if not, would you challenge it? Anais, we have Anais here with us. That is the coordinator of the network CIBER, the Pan-European Bioregions Network. Have you studied this case, this approach?
Hi, good morning. So you got me there because I was about to leave. Unfortunately, I have to take my girl to school. But yes, we are actually also looking at this and asking our clusters what about the need for therapeutics. Definitely, I think anyway. Thanks to both, because it was very interesting presentation and very clear message that we need to push up. Definitely.
Thank you, Anais. I have another question. Horst, you mentioned that this initiative is now being communicated to the European Parliament. Do you have some kind of document, statement, position paper that we could share?
Yeah, well, I do have, and if we could share that, I do not know, because let's say it's an approach of one parliamentarian to get to the top, to the president of the European Commission, to Ursula von der Leyen. I will ask her if it's possible to share that. Yeah. But I think that is really so important at the moment, and it would be a wonderful time also for the European Commission to do something perfect, yeah, because they are criticized. If that is right or not right, I can't decide. That the acquisition of the vaccines was not very well organized, and that we are not in the first row, but in the second or third row probably. But here now, I think the European Commission could do something and push this therapeutic development really in a positive way. Unfortunately, I have to say the USA is a role model, because they have been supporting therapeutic developments from the beginning, because they have realized that this is really important. Therapeutic will save lives, yeah, and it's also clear that the biotech and pharma industry will save lives, and they can save us from the pandemic. It will not just fade away. And here, if the Commission would really support, and it does not matter, well, maybe 9 of 10 fail, but not in this late stage. If they really support these late stage clinical trials, I think it's about the chances to have them, that they are successful. Daniel, you can correct me, might be close to 50%. So if they support, let's say, 10 or even more with a huge fund, I think then we are on the safe side. It would be an investment. It sounds big, 1 billion, but in comparison to all the losses that we have, it's nothing. I think it is, if we can reduce the mortality rate to 10 or 1%, what we have now, that we do not have close to 5,000 deaths, but that we have only 500, only 50 fatalities from coronavirus these days, not these days, but let's say in a half year from now. That would be perfect. We could start a more or less normal life. We could go to football matches, we could go to concerts, we could go to a restaurant, etc. Because I think that's feasible. And what I want to state here as well, it's fantastic, these and I appreciate these antibody therapies, but what we need at the end is really small chemical entities like that was proposed here by Daniel. We need the coronavirus pill that we can throw in, yeah, that we do not have injections, infusions, etc. And I think that will be very important. Of course, that has to be prescribed. That will cost us something, but it's nothing in comparison to the huge losses that we have now. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Horst. I see that we have also with us Mark the Chance. Welcome, bonjour, Mark.
Hello, Antonio. Hello, Horst. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to add something to what you said, Horst. Actually, the Warp Speed operation in the US the development of the vaccine. So US invested $14 billion at the time for all vaccines. At the time, they were losing $28 billion a day for the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that Mansef Slaoui, who was recruited by the US authorities, who declared that he was leading the war speech. It's a Belgian guy, as you know. He was the chairman of GSK R&D at GSK Vaccines, and just an half-day investment compared to what they are losing and what they were losing on daily basis. So I think, to your point for the European Commission, I think it is really worth to support companies like Immune Therapeutics, Immunic AG, to develop these antivirals or these anti-immune reaction drugs. So I fully support your statement.
Mark, I have a proposal. Well, here, for example, what you see here, it's the report from the Milken Institute. There are 319 therapeutic approaches which are in clinical trials are listed, but it's all over the world. A small portion of that is in Europe, and that's partly already outdated. I went through that. It's a lot of time, but and then you do not know, are they still working on that? I think it would be great if you, as the president of the Council of European Bioregions, or I think Anais left already, that you perhaps contact as many European life science clusters to find out who has which trials ongoing, so that we form, let's say, what here in Germany was done by Daniel and his colleagues, a BITKOV, that we have a European BITKOV, and then we can I think then our pressure could be even bigger to the European Commission to do something, because they see all the opportunities. And it would be irresponsible if they would not take this chance and support those. As I told you, if you are in a phase 2 trial and have positive results, of course, companies like Immunic will try to get an emergency use authorization. But you still need the phase 3 trial to get, let's say, the complete answer if the drug is good, if there are no side effects. In this case, in contrast to vaccines, side effects do not matter so much, because it's a question to die or not to die. Then you can accept some side effects, yeah. But I think that would be perhaps a reasonable initiative of CBAR, the Council of European Bioregions, to collect those, and maybe if you have a little bit of time, just bring these results together, and then let's approach Ursula von der Leyen.
Yeah, thank you for your suggestion. Actually, also, could you send me the document?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Antonio, unfortunately, I have to leave also for another meeting, but it was very interesting, and I hope we will continue to collaborate like that. It is really of value, as Horst mentioned.
Thank you to you, Mark. And I want to offer our full support on this. Okay, I think that the suggestion from Horst is wonderful. If we have now the tools to transfer that message to the Parliament and to the European Commission, we can do it both from CBER but also from the European Cluster Alliance. I have now the possibility to transfer even to the Industrial Forum this message very quickly. So I will encourage you to do it, and to do it soon. And we will work on suggesting that.
So thank you for your support, and that's fine. Indeed, you have direct access to the right person, so it helps a lot. Yeah.
Thank you very much to you. Merci
Thank you,
beaucoup.
Antonio. Thank you, Horst. Thank you, Daniel.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Antonio, for this opportunity. That's all that we wanted to reach today, Daniel and me and many other people, because we care about society. It's not so much, you know, these companies won't make a lot of money with that, because hopefully everything will go away then once these therapies work. But at the moment we need the solution, and it's just an effort, and that's what we see. To bring the economy back to a normal level, and we can only do that if we can drastically reduce the mortality rate of those people who have been infected.
But the action that you propose is a very good example of what we can do from the cluster networks. Okay, to join information about what are the possibilities across Europe and the importance of the topic and to work on it. Marek, welcome.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you very much for your presentations. You reached directly European Commission because we are with Eva from the European Commission from DG GROW, and exactly what we are suggesting, this therapeutic block, as you said, was less of I mean, it is important. There was a very much focus, and still is, on vaccines from the European Commission side. You were mentioning to have the European parliamentarian who will go to our President von der Leyen. Fine, let's do it political, but I would propose as well the shortcut so that it goes directly to the European Commission with this request, and we meaning to the operational level, and we raise it here in the group which is dealing with COVID. But if I can ask you to have just one paragraph to attract attention, and what is, so basically state of play, what is the idea and what should be done. Very short idea, so that, you know, what is the state of play, idea, what should be done, and then I think we can already learn before even going, and if it goes from two directions, from bottom up in the Commission and from top down in the Commission, it would be even better. Yeah? Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. If that is an opportunity, I think it was only, I wanted to present you the lecture that we've learned in Bavaria, because the political decision makers with us, they were so involved with these, with this prevention, with the distance rules, and when to leave the house and when to be at home, and that was everything that was done. And now the discussion is only about vaccination, and people don't see that. And it's here with us in Bavaria, at least. Maybe it's different on the European level, maybe it's different in Brussels. It was so important that, let's say, one parliamentarian who got bored because he wasn't involved in any decisions. Yeah, the whole parliament was just hanging around all the time. And then he brought this idea, and we could support that completely because we had already collected these proposals. Fantastic proposals. One of those is indeed from Munich, and this helped in this way. And it also worked like this on the German level, because it was always told, let's say, to the parliamentarians, no, everything is perfect, and we also support therapy development. And then we found out that the official statement of the German Ministry of Research was, no, we don't care well, they didn't say it like this, but we do not support, because we think vaccination is the only possibility that we could do. And then also here, one parliamentarian, actually a school friend from the one in Bavaria, he got up and he got, just by this one measure, one session, one video conference, and he was able to convince then also the decision makers in the ministry, including the government, the minister. So, but maybe here I would prefer to do it this way. But as I told you, I was very unsuccessful. We were not so successful to go to the direct way to those people who can resolve on that. But maybe it works different on the European level. And Daniel and we will prepare something and send it to you. It will be our pleasure to do so.
Yeah, thank you. That's why we have something tangible that we can provide to then to further launch in the machine. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Marek. It can be very quick. Eva has shared in the chat a scheme, very simple scheme of what should be rated. But if you do it today, I'm sure that Marek and Eva are able to address it to the right people very, very quickly. So this is an excellent opportunity. It will be very good if you can back the suggestion with data, with numbers, the numbers that you have now, and if we are able to reach for the European network and later make bigger the numbers with that information, it will be good. But I will not wait for it if you want a suggestion. Okay. So we have some questions from Aurora. Welcome, Aurora. Bon dia.
Bon dia, Egunon. and good morning to everyone. Congratulations on your ideas and on the presentations. That's wonderful. As a citizen, I only have to thank. And let me say that my only connection to this area is as a normal person that goes to hospital, and also I've been involved in the preparation of purchasing central for hospitals. So I got some inches of the bureaucratic parts. That's why my questions are more bureaucratic. Sorry. And one of these things I've been aware is that the approval phase of the medicines uses to take years, and after the years of preparation of the medicines. So my question about the preparation of the entities to also approve on a quick way. I'm not saying on a non-conscious way, but on a quick way, is also crucial for having these medicines available. I mean, the benefits of having it available are more than what you wrote down on the presentation. Here in Portugal, doctors are falling apart because they almost don't sleep. And if the medicines come out, everything will be easier for treating the people that are on the beds of the hospitals, and also maybe at home to avoid hospitals. So this is urgently needed. The official entities must be also aware of the need to be fast.
Maybe I can
answer to Daniel. Yeah, you are the expert in that area.
No, that's definitely one of the important points. It's not just money. I think I didn't put that in the presentation. It's also the regulatory pathway forward. I have to say something positive and something worrisome on that end. So with the positive experience we made, it was that the country responsible regulatory authorities in the countries where we have started our phase 2 trial were extremely quick. Usually it takes months to get a proposal through, to get approval for a clinical trial. In Germany, it took us only 5 days to get approval by the BfArM, our competent authority for clinical trials with small molecules in Germany. So that was a good experience, and I see that also on that end, people are really working 24/7 really to get things done and executed. And there are other observations, and that scares me a little bit. For example, ethics committees in some countries and in some areas in Germany really seem to not understand the real challenge, and they are really adding roadblocks to really good therapeutic ideas which need to be accelerated. And that's something where maybe a European efforts to coordinate fast track and to make sure that the quality is balanced with risk and benefit here would really help to then at the end get solutions quicker to patients. And my worry is that in Germany there is no, or in Europe, there is no established emergency use authorization process like in the United States. So we need to have more boost there on the regulatory side to say, okay, how can we make these things available to patients in a quicker way and without a lot of bureaucracy? I think there's always a way to treat patients with a drug which is even not yet approved. However, we need something where, for example, you mentioned the doctors in Portugal, they don't have time to fill out 100 pages of paper. So it needs to be something which is really quicker than what is established so far.
Let me come back, thank you, Daniel, to one point that I made before. I was very happy when I heard that the EMA, the European Regulatory Authority, really took a close look at the vaccines, because vaccines are given to healthy people. So there should be more or less no side effects. In this way, one would have accepted even some side effects, but I think this needs a very good overview, etc. Now, there's a big difference when you're going to therapies. Therapies are for people which might die shortly, and there we need other rules. So
this is Eva from the Commission. I don't know, Antonio, if you can hear me, but please, the points that you have just made on regulation are very important for us. If you could please also add them into the note that you are going to circulate, that would be great. Also in comparison with the US, please.
Yes, indeed, the idea you are talking about, they have emergency rules for clinical clinic in case of, we don't have it. It would be very interesting to, if you have a link to the US as well, so that when we talk to our colleagues here inside, we can refer to, and then we'll see if this is the case or not.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Horst, we lost you for some seconds.
Yes.
I think that,
but I'm back.
Okay, you're back.
That's fine.
Okay, did you hear the suggestion from Eva and Marek?
Yes.
Okay, that's very important. So if we can include those statements about regulation difficulties, because I want to take the opportunity to share with you what we spoke about past Tuesday. Let me just close this. Sorry. You know that we are now part of the EU Industrial Strategy Forum, okay, Industrial Forum, and we have 3 questions that they have asked from us, okay, that we need to answer very quickly, officially, in 2 weeks, okay. But this is important, but it will go directly to one of the highest level possible in our reach. And the third question is, what do you see as the biggest obstacles for building up strategic capacities? In this case, to successfully master the green and digital transition, but also in the health environment, okay? So if we think that this is one of the obstacles for our critical developments, we need to state it clearly and define it with references. Is that clear? I don't know if you are hearing me, because I don't have any answer. I hope yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. And these ideas could be also included in the first question. What lessons have you drawn from the COVID-19 crisis? Okay, and we have spoken about several lessons that need to be applied yet. Okay, we have 10 minutes. Any other comment or questions from the attendants?
Yes, Antonio, I have a question that I put in the chat to Horst. It's a very short question. Horst, in this research process, there is and from your experience in Bavaria and in Germany, there is a process of cooperation between the European centers of competence and the US ones and the Asian countries like China, South Korea. This is one part of the question. The other, the big multinationals, they are involved in this process? Thank you.
Well, as far as I do not know, as far as I know, this isn't the case, but maybe Daniel can answer that in a better way. I do not know of any of these connections or so, I'm afraid. Maybe we can work on that, discuss that on the phone later on today. Yeah. Daniel, do you know of anything like this?
No, I'm not aware of, and I think that governments are trying to leverage these connections, but for example, we as you know, in Germany, we have the government acquired a drug from Regeneron, which is not approved in Europe so far. So somehow it should be facilitated to benefit from what other countries have already done.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comment or question?
Antonio, may I use the opportunity that I have people who are in the business? There is a question about the production capacities of vaccines, of any ingredients, anything which is possible. I'm just testing the ground here with you. As you know, the production capacity and the number of vaccines is limited. People are fighting for this, and it's just to have discussion with you about the capacity of clusters to help in the production capacity to get into the production chains. How much you think it could be relevant to mobilize members of clusters? Is it possible at all? Knowing that all these big pharmaceutical giants are leading the supply and value chain. So what is your view on this from being in this business?
Okay, I'm happy to answer that because I think that's a real challenge that we have at the moment. Now, fortunately, it was just yesterday that by chance I identified a company which I was not so much aware of, which is able to produce even these very new innovative messenger RNA vaccines, and they are already producing for another US company which is still in the clinical trials to produce it so that it is available once they get the approval. So there are some companies who know how to do that. Usually they are not on our screen because these are, let's say, these are not the most innovative companies who do not develop new drugs by themselves. But now we see how important they are when they can offer production facilities. I talked to them, they said, yes, we've already contacted Pfizer, but since we can only produce 3 million vials per month, Pfizer said, well, we are not interested in that. If you can produce 30 million per month, then we can talk to each other. But I think this is also not a very good way how to handle the problem that, let's say, we can probably identify more smaller units. And usually these companies have these perfect standards that they can do that. The same will happen also now with the drugs which might come to the market. It might be a little bit easier by the small chemical entities that Daniel presented, but especially when it comes to antibodies, I know through this therapy initiative that we have in Bavaria, they have difficulties to find companies who can produce GMP material that then is used in the clinical trials. But yes, we are working on that. We have contacted many companies and they say, well, if we get some governmental support to, let's say, to get, let's say, all the equipment for this specific process, they cannot do the investments because they do not know how long will be these messenger RNA still be produced or so. But if there is a support, and I can just say that the Bavarian government would strongly support that, I could imagine also Europe would do that. So I think that's a very good idea that the clusters which are in the life sciences, they should just look around, and they should look around in the corners where they haven't looked so much before, because it's not these innovative startup companies, these established companies, and sometimes they belong to bigger consortiums or so, but we can be of help, as we have shown recently. I immediately transferred the information to our Bavarian Ministry of Health, and I told the CEO of this company, if he doesn't get a phone call within the next 2 days, he should call me back. Then I will go to the Süddeutsche Zeitung and make that public.
Thank you very much, Antonio. It's a question to you. Do you believe we, as a community, the EU, from clusters, are able to just come up with an estimate of the production capacity we could have in vaccines? For example, there's like the Pfizer 3 million. Probably we have many scattered. It's not consolidated. It's not known it's not known that there is this capacity. So in order to be known, we need to put evidence that okay, cluster committee has this capacity, production capacity. The only thing we need to do is to organize it, and then we can negotiate or whatsoever. But I think this this knowledge that the capacity could exist within the clusters is not evident. Huh?
I totally think that we should work on it. Of course, we don't have now Mark, neither Anais, but I'm sure that we can work with CIBER in order to reach for all the clusters across Europe and ask them about both things, the approach on the therapeutics and the capabilities, the members' capabilities on producing vaccine.
For example, I will give you now. We are still not now in this very close dialogue about vaccines, and there's this issue about production capacity in Europe. And if at this very moment we would come with okay, theoretically, in our estimates, this would be the potential capacity of members of clusters for production. But this is very fragmented, it's scattered, but the production capacity exists. It's just that we give the signals that would be already, I think, at this very moment, very politically, but as well operationally, very helpful. And then let's see. But I think at this moment, there's completely lack of awareness that there is a capacity which can be used. Of course, the main focus is on giants, pharmaceutical giants. So indeed, if you are talking to Pfizer and then Pfizer is talking to the small, so it's like you are giving this this decision making to the Pfizer.
Yeah. No, I completely, well, I appreciate this approach, and there often you hear the words, well, now it's too late, we should have done that half a year before. That's completely right. But we should not only think of Europe. Well, maybe we have a good chance to get the entire European population vaccinated by the end of this year or something like this. But there is still the rest of the world, and I think we are responsible for those people as well. And we have these production capacities and facilities that would be helpful as well. And I also would like to say we should not leave the field to China, for example. They are very open in transferring their vaccines also to Africa, Middle East, and wherever. We are completely not open for that, which is absolutely okay. But I think then we also have the responsibility for that, and we can support the industry. And we do not know actually how early we have to get revaccinated, because we do not know how long the protection is. We know from influenza we have to get vaccinated every year again, and especially if the virus is mutating much faster than the influenza virus, this might not be enough. So we might have to establish a completely new industry, and then also these small entities could be very important. A very good idea, Marek.
So we should work on it as soon as possible.
Sorry, I was going to add this thought about vaccinations is also applicable to the medicines. They also have to be modified if the virus modifies.
Maybe I can comment one thing here. Not all. It really depends how they're working. Some of them are using virus structures, and our drug is approaching the machinery of the host cell. So this is something to be prepared. I think that's why I mentioned pandemic preparedness is something where we need therapeutics which are independent of those viral mutations. And there are a couple of these approaches on the road.
Okay, so it has been an extremely interesting, important session. We have work to do, homework, very critical, because as Marek said, this is the moment we can.
And it's not too late. Absolutely, we have 8 billion people in the world, and this will be continued. So it's not late at all. It's just a question who will produce it.
So Horst, we will contact, if you don't mind, about this point with CIBER also, and it will be good if we can get that information as soon as possible. But please Don't delay the message to Marek and to Eva on your proposals about therapeutics. I will write it as soon as possible. If you don't mind putting me in copy, it will be good for me to include it in our suggestion also for the Industrial Forum. And let's work together in this. You agree?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much to everyone. For the next 4 sessions will be dedicated to answer the 3 questions that you have in the screen to the EU Industrial Forum, and the last one to agree on the common approach. You are invited to join. It's very important also. Thank you very much. Have a very good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.